What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers War Room, the show that puts you in the minds of Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, Andy Weidel, and the rest of the Steelers front office as they look to put together a winning roster in 2024 and beyond, and a roster we hope can compete for a 7th Lombardi trophy. All right, today we continue with our draft prospect position rankings. Steelers fits, Steelers prospects ranked in the best players, and we'll cover about, depending on the position, we're covering 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Today, you're going to get 10. That's right. You're going to get 10 cornerbacks as we go through the list. And you know what? I lie. You're actually going to get a bonus one. You're going to get 11. All right, let's go through them, and then we'll talk about why. So we start off with Quinion Mitchell. Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo is my number one cornerback on the board. Yes, that's right. Number one cornerback on the board. I do have him again ahead of Terran Arnold. I am not going to mark a guy down because he played for Toledo versus Alabama. I love what Quinion Mitchell did. I thought he tested out of this world. He played excellent at the Senior Bowl. And I actually think he's a more versatile player that can go up against number one wide receivers almost from the get-go. He is, if you were going to go cornerback in the first round, he should be the first one off your board. Now, the next player that comes into my ranking is Cooper DeJean. I do now have him ahead of Terran Arnold as well. In the Steelers instance, other teams, Terran Arnold makes complete sense as the number 1 or 2. But for the Steelers, the ability to have flexibility, a guy that can play in the safety sort of roles, a guy that can play in the slot, the athletic profile of Cooper DeJean, and the secondary, the state of the secondary for the Steelers right now, outside of Deshaun Elliott, outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, outside of Kazi as the backup there, really, apart from Joey Porter Jr., everything else is a big question mark. And so Cooper DeJean, whatever you want to say his name, he answers a lot of those challenges with his versatility. Then, of course, I do have Terran Arnold. You're not going to put him any later than that. But I really like Terran Arnold as well out of Alabama. He tested out of this world at the Combine as well. I just think when it comes to Steelers, the other two guys pip him at the post. I then have Ennis Rakestraw Jr., a guy that sort of fluctuated into the first round and fallen back. He's a feisty, and he could be anywhere between day 1 and day 2. But he's a feisty cornerback, a quick cornerback, a guy who's not afraid to play a tackle, to make a tackle, plays with a high motor. I'm really high on him because I think he's going to transition well to the NFL. I then have Nate Wiggins and Kool-Aid McKinstry in that other bracket of day 1 to 2 day players. I think Kool-Aid will go first out of these 3 guys. I do like Kool-Aid, but if you're going to take Kool-Aid in the first, why aren't you moving up to get Arnold or Mitchell, or why aren't you letting DeJean fall to you as well? So I kind of don't get that move. Nate Wiggins, love the speed, love the coverage capabilities. I do worry about his weight and size, and at 170 pounds, I just don't think that's enough for AFC football. I don't think it's enough for AFC North football in particular, and I don't think he can put the pounds on and stay that quick and do all the things he does best. So I don't really like the fit for the Steelers, but if you are ranking the cornerbacks, he does deserve to be in the top 5. People probably flick the order around for Ennis Rakestraw Jr. and Kool-Aid McKinstry, go hardest. I just feel that what Ennis Rakestraw Jr. brings to the Steelers is more of a player and schematic and trait fit, attribute fit than Kool-Aid. Then also probably equally controversially, I actually have Max Melton as my best cornerback on day 2 out of Rutgers. Had an awesome draft process till now, had an awesome Senior Bowl, key interception. He's a great player, did everything he needed to do at the Combine. He's just an awesome bloke, and you can't go wrong if you pick him early on day 2, or at least be in the second round on day 2. He's a lock and load. He's ready to play a decent amount of snaps at cornerback next year in the NFL. I then have TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. He is another prospect that I think is ready to go to the pros. I then have Cameron Lassiter out of Georgia. A guy that's probably ahead of a lot of people's boards of Max Melton and TJ Tampa, but ahead of Max Melton in this list. But he's a good guy out of Georgia. I just think I really like what Melton brings. I think Tampa's ready to go play in the pros. And that's the difference of why I have Lassiter further down the list. Then I got DJ James out of Auburn and Josh Newton. I am very high on Josh Newton. Josh Newton is very underrated in this draft. He probably will go early day 3. He will make a really good adjustment to the pros. He'll be like Roger McCreary, and everyone will think, why didn't he go earlier on day 2? Even if he makes the end of day 2 at a good begin, why not earlier on day 2? I do really like DJ James as well. I think he had an awesome year for Auburn in many respects. And so I have put him out of Josh Newton out of respect to other people's profiles and rankings. But I am very high on Josh Newton, and I do see him as a top 12 cornerback in this year's draft. All right, so that all being said, how does that really place everything up? Well, if you look at a PFF grade, a lot of people don't love PFF, but at least they give some grades out there. It's easy to kind of cover. Quinion Mitchell number 1, McKinstry number 2, Arnold number 3. If you go off my list, then Lassiter's in there, number 9. Number 10 is DJ James. Nate Wiggins is number 15. We've got to go deeper before we get to Cooper DeJean at 33. Josh Newton at 37, TJ Tampa at 45. Beanie Bishop, it's worth noting Beanie Bishop in this list. He's quite high in the interception list as well. Beanie Bishop obviously brought in by the Steelers for a visit. When you look at run defense, and I have sorted these, I should say as well, but based on players that have played 50% of the total number of snaps, the highest number of snaps played by a cornerback last year in college football in the FBS, which was 967 snaps. But if you look at the run defense grade, Terran Arnold, number 1, you've got to go right down to Kool-Aid McKinstry at 13 before we get the next bloke on our list. You then go even deeper to Cooper DeJean at 27. You then move into Quinion Mitchell at 32. And then we go way deeper down before we get to our next guys. But you got to look at run defense versus what you're seeing a lot of the other guys that are on our list more playing outside corner. Really, that where they are going to be defending that run, it's a lot less. You look at overall tackle grade. I do think this is interesting sometimes because I prefer to look at the missed tackles, but let's just look at the grade. It's the fastest way to cover 11 prospects. Is Quinion Mitchell kind of comes in number 1 from our list. Kool-Aid McKinstry, and when he comes in number 1, he's coming in at number 11 overall. Kool-Aid McKinstry, number 19 overall. Cooper DeJean, 23 overall. Beanie Bishop, again, pretty high there. Terran Arnold, 29. Then we go down to Nate Wiggins at 48. So that's kind of interesting as well. If you look at, and I'm going to have to zoom out to do this because of the way that PFF run their platform. If you look at overall, some of the overall stats with these guys, I always say missed tackles are a really interesting mark for me, and you don't want anyone over 20% in this field. Now, if we look at the lowest number, Quinion Mitchell is the first guy off our list, only missed 6.3% of tackles. If you go and look in the NFL, Minka misses a lot more than that. He's a safety, so he can get on those big blown up plays, but that's really good. That's what shows you that Quinion Mitchell's not afraid to put a hit on and make a tackle. Kool-Aid McKinstry is in there as well. He goes number 18 in this list. Caramel Lassiter, number 26. Cooper DeJean is in there at 40. Nate Wiggins in there at 49. So as I said, Nate Wiggins is not afraid to make a tackle, but as I say, I personally worry about the size that he's going to bring to in the NFL. You look at the overall number of targets they face, though, and Terran Arnold's right up there with number 5th the most targets. Why is that important? Because when you look at the receptions, the minimum receptions allowed, Terran Arnold did really, really well in this regard. Now, Quinion Mitchell is Cameron Lassiter is the highest on our list, only allowing 38.5% completion percentage on passes thrown his way. DeJean and Mitchell are together on 43.5%. Josh Newton's down there on 48.1%. Kool-Aid McKinstry is 48.7%. TJ Tampa is 51%. Terran Arnold is 51.9%. But remember, Terran Arnold had way more targets thrown his way. So that's pretty good performance there. So with that, there's a lot of these guys are really make it very hard when quarterbacks throw their way. And this is the coverage that's really, really important and what the Steelers need to improve on if they're going to draft a cornerback high. If you look at interceptions on the year, Terran Arnold is behind Mike Sainstrel. Sainstrel, if anyone's out there wondering why I didn't pick Sainstrel, his number sort of 12 to 13 on my list, probably more like 13. Anyway, he had 6 interceptions last year, but Terran Arnold, one of the better players on our list, had 5. Max Melton in there had, I think it was 3. Cooper DeJean was in there with, I think he had 3 as well. TJ Tampa had 2. Then we go right down. We'll have to go right down. This Quinion Mitchell only had one, but then it's also about how many guys are throwing their way. He would have been the number one corner, obviously, at Toledo. People aren't going to throw his way readily. So that kind of changes things as well. But I guess at a high level, just moving back to it, I'm just going to repeat it again. You do have Quinn Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Terran Arnold, Ennis Rayshaw Jr., Nate Wiggins, Claude McKinstry, Max Melton, TJ Tampa, Cameron Lassiter, DJ James, and Josh Newton. They're my top 11 cornerbacks in this draft. Only 2 of these guys, I think, could scrape into day 3. The other 9 are going to go in the first 2 days. That is huge. That means in the first 64 picks of this NFL draft, you have 64 plus picks this NFL draft, you have 9 cornerbacks going. Over 10% of the number of all the players going are going to be more than 1 in 10 players are going to be a cornerback. That's crazy compared to the drafts in previous years. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have I got the order wrong? Is there a cornerback prospect you like more than the other? You let me know in the comments. As always, go Steelers.